Okay, so today we're going to prepare some arrows, and these ones are Easton XX75 Platinum Pluses. These are 1813s that I've chosen here. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to first of all think about gluing the points in, the piles. Secondly, we need to put in the nocks, and thirdly we need to glue on the vanes. So these Easton XX75s have been pre-cut for me from the retailer, and they already come with the bushing in the end, so they're ready to accept the knock straight away. Now the first thing I like to do is to put the points in. So we need to make sure we've got our points, and for these I'm using a matching Easton NIBB point. These are the 1813 NIBB points to match the 1813 arrows, so make sure if you're ordering some, you make sure you match and buy the same ones to fit the same arrows. You can buy these in singles as well, so you can buy as many as you want or buy some spares if you need to. The end of the arrow has been cut for me, as I said before, so it's just a matter of sliding in the point after we've put some glue on it and heated it up. Now the glue I'm using for melting onto the hot points to push them in is just normal glue gun glue. It's nothing special. I'm not using anything special from an archery retailer or anything. So let's go and add the points in. So traditionally I'd use a soldering iron for this job, and just heat the soldering iron up, have it clamped onto the desk, and then as the points are hollow, I'd just sort of slide the points onto the end of the soldering iron and wait for them to heat up. And then grab my grips and then take them off the soldering iron, once I've added the glue of course, and then insert them into the end of the arrow shaft. But today I'm trying something new. I've got a Tac Life hot air gun. Now I got this from Amazon, so I'll put the link in the description if you want to have a look at it as well. The reason I bought this one was because it sits on the desk flat. Now a lot of them don't have that option, so you can work above it. It's quite stable. So what we're going to do is we're going to work above it, going to have the point above the heat, and then add the glue on by running the glue stick along the point, and we're going to hold it with the grips. Now I'm going to set it to 150 degrees C with a low air setting. I found out that that works quite well with melting the glue without it getting sort of too hot. So we've got our arrow shaft ready, just waiting for the hot air gun to heat up. It does heat up quite quickly. So we've got a nib, we're going to put that over the top and wait for that to heat up. Now we'll put the glue stick on it and see if it's going to melt it. And we need to put it on all sides of the point. You don't need a lot of glue on here to make these points stick in. Just heat it up a little bit more. And then we're ready to insert it into the end of the arrow shaft. And then as I put it in, I always spin the arrow shaft as well to make sure the glue gets all the way in. And then finally just push it down onto a hard surface to make sure the point's all the way in. Now if we've got a little bit of glue coming out left over, it's quite easy just to heat the point up a tiny little bit and then just wipe the excess off with a cloth. Although you'll find the excess glue will come off when you start shooting the arrow, once you start shooting it into a target and pulling it out of a target. It's warm to the touch but not too hot, and it should cool down quite quickly. So that's the first one done. Now we can move on to the next one. Okay, so that's all the arrow points done. So what do we need to put the Nocks in? Well, I've got an Easton knock tool here, which is going to help me push and turn the Nocks in. And then obviously we need our Nocks, which I've got Easton G-Nocks Smalls here. So all you have to do with these is just push them into the end. Now going up to a certain point, and then what you'll need to do is, if you've got a tool, I mean you don't need this tool, but it just helps, so you can push and turn at the same time, and then the knock is in place. You want to make sure there's no gap between the knock and the end of the unit bushing. Make sure that goes all the way in nice and flush as well. I wouldn't recommend, if they're not going in, pushing downwards onto them with any force, because you may just break the end of the knock as well. But the Easton tool is pretty good. Some people get these free with a bag of Nocks. I didn't, but I've got one already, and it's also really useful for turning the Nocks as well, which we're going to have to do once we've put the vanes on. So we're doing the Nocks first, mainly because we want to be able to place the arrows into the fletching jig with the Nocks on, because there is a slot for these Nocks to be pushed on when you use the fletching jig. So we're just going to do all of these. So as I said before, just push it on as far as it'll go, and then I'm just going to use the tool to push and turn. There you go. Very easy to put in. Very noisy, these aluminium arrows. Apologies for that. As my hands get hotter, the aluminium gets slipperier. That's a word. Slipperier or slippy. Right, so that's number 3 done. So again, just push them in. Push and turn. So I'm not showing you the ends of those. See, that's not in properly because we've got a gap there. Why we don't want a gap is because you're going to get a different length of arrow and they're not going to seat in properly. Nope, that is fine on that now. Okay, so all 6 now have Nocks on the end. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn them so they all face the same direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Easton logo at the top and then turn them so that the edge line of this, of the wing of the tool, is in line with the Easton logo. It just makes them kind of look a bit better when they're finished, to have them all look in the same way. Doesn't have to be exact. At the moment we can always change them and turn them again. That one's a bit looser, that one. To turn, but easier to turn, that one. That one's nearly there already. 2 more to go. So if we make them all flat now, or make the Nocks more or less angled the same direction, you should see the logo all at the same position, just so they all kind of match. Now I've got 6 of these arrows that I bought, and I'm going to only fletch or put vanes on 3 of them and leave 3 of them just with the Nocks in and points in for bare shaft tuning. So you will see 3 fletched and 3 non-fletched. So now on to vanes and fletching. So it's totally up to you what you go for when it comes to fletching. You could obviously go with feathers, you could go with shield vanes, or these kind of curved vanes, and different lengths of vanes as well. Totally up to you. I've gone with some plastic AAE Plastifletch vanes, and these are EP23s, which means they're 2 3/8 inches long. Okay, now I haven't chosen my colours yet, but I decided to order some red, white and blues. But traditionally you'd have two colours of one and one colour of the other, so that you can work out easily how to knock the arrow on the string. Or you could have a colour of each and then just remember that you need to knock with the white, I suppose, for example. So traditionally we would normally have two whites on the arrow, two whites in this instance, and a red to make up our arrow, or we could have two whites and a blue, of course, if you wanted, or any combination at all. So let's get rid of these other 5 arrows and see what they look like. So what I'm talking about is something like this. Actually, let's pull that one away. So you get a feel of kind of what they're going to look like. Obviously, if we went with the white and the red, we'd be looking at something like that instead. Or I suppose we could go with have 2 reds and a white. Choice is yours. You're not limited to choices at all. You might want to choose colours that you like, or colours that go with the rest of your riser or bow kit that you've got. Now the fletches and the vanes themselves normally come in packs of 12. Don't forget, if you're going to need 2 of one colour on one and 1 colour of another if you're going that route. So just work out how many you're going to need before you start fletching, okay? So if we're fletching, what are we going to need? Well, we're going to need some glue, and I use dragon spit glue because I like it because it's in the bottle and not in a toothpaste kind of tube. And then obviously we're going to need a fletching jig. Okay, this is a D-cut Nexus fletching jig, and I've done a review of this before, so you can always go back and have a look at that if you want to. And I also have a cloth just to wipe off any excess glue that comes off. So we've got our arrow and it's ready with the knock on the end, and what's going to happen is this knock is going to fit into the fletching jig, okay, once you position it incorrectly like that, and then you're able to set it to the correct setting for 3 turns. 1, 2, 3, and then we can glue our wings on. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to find out, obviously pick your colour, but you kind of need to have worked out how far down the arrow shaft you're going to put your vanes. So that's in, and then what you do is you would put, and then you would clamp your vane in, maybe at the 1/2 inch starting mark, and then magnetically that will clamp on there, and it will glue under there. Okay, that's a little bit down. Actually, I want it a bit further back than that. You could always look at another arrow you have to see how far that vane is from the back. Right, so once you've decided your colours, then what we're going to do is we're going to slip this one in here. We're going to put it to the right position that we want it. I'm using 2 the main bits back. Okay, so I'm going from just under here. Now I'll get my glasses on and get my dragon spit glue running down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a really small bead down the edge here, not too much. You'll know if you put too much on because it's going to spill out once you push this onto the actual shaft of the arrow. You don't want too little either, because then it won't form a good bond. So it's trial and error on this one. The more you do, the better you get at this task, to be honest. It's difficult to see when you're trying to do everything on camera and get it into the picture. Okay, so I've got my glue on here. Now I'm going to just slot this in. Okay. And I'm just going to gently push down on it. I must admit, aluminium arrows are not my favourite for fletching. I do prefer the carbon wrapped arrows because I just feel you get a better adhesion on those. And then as we wait for that glue to set, I usually just check sort of both sides of it just to see if there's loads of glue coming out on the other side, which I don't want, and then I'll just give it a wipe with the cloth. And then once that's dried, basically unhinge it. As long as it's dried, that should stay in exact position. Remember not to just rip it off because you probably take the vein with it. So unclip it, pull it off, and then rotate it with the knob on the end to the second position and put your next vein on. And keep doing that, obviously 3 per arrow, and then change the arrow and get on with the next arrow. On here you can actually see some of the glue turning white now and drying. Okay, so I'm just going to say I'm going to pinch that, open it, and then lift it up. And there's our vein, nicely glued in place. As I say, what we'll do is then we'll turn to the next position when it clicks, and then we've got our single colour on there, so I'm going with 2 whites and a red, so our red is on there. The next job then is to grab a white one and do exactly the same again. Make sure you position the vein on the same position here, and then get your glue ready to go and go with the next one. It's actually harder to see the glue on the white ones. So again, line it up. And give it a little bit of pressure. I can see a little bit of glue's oozed out that time. So I'm just going to run this gently down both sides. Don't forget the back side as well. Doesn't matter if you have a little bit of glue on the front and the back, because that can help keep the fletching in place. So we're just waiting for that one to set. And again, lift off the clip, open the clip up and release it. And then that's our second vein on. Then we turn it to the final position. Really, we just do exactly the same as we just did with that last white one. And there's the first arrow done. Two whites and a red. Then when you think it's dried enough, you can just pull it out and get on with the next one. And just leave it to dry. Don't shoot those straight away. Leave those a couple of hours to dry. So that's the 3 arrows fletched. We've gone for the red and white veins on here. If I just lay them out now with the red vein on the top, we should see that the Easton logo is in the same position on each one, which it is. It's just always nice to have a kind of a set of arrows that all look the same. So that's 3 that I've done there. The other 3 arrows I've left as a bare shaft arrows for sort of tuning. And what do I mean by bare shaft? Well, basically I mean that they've got the points in and they've got the nocks in, but they're not fletched. There's no veins on them. So that's the basic way of setting up some arrows. Not professionally set up at all, just some cheap kind of ready to shoot arrows, and that is the basic way of doing it. You need to put the points in, you need to put the veins on, and you need to put the nocks on as well. Thanks for watching the rather lengthy video. If you liked it, please give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot, see you soon.